Hi, my name is Lisa Martin. I am the mother of a child with special needs. He has Fragile X syndrome. In many respects, he has been my teacher. He has made me be a more caring, compassionate, better human being. What we have learned together on our journey, I have realised the difficulties and challenges that parents of special needs children face are wide and varied. During my years of facilitating courses for parents and professionals, I have met some wonderful people who have shared with me their stories of great joy and sadness, who have experienced the good, the bad and the ugly of all aspects of life bringing up their special children. I am passionate about empowering parents who are dedicated in helping their children with additional needs. You're invited to my podcast. I will be talking about all things in our special world of disability and additional needs. I will be interviewing other parents of children with special needs, as well as professionals and people in the community who are offering services that help. Sometimes these podcasts might touch an emotional nerve and upset you. Other times they might fill you with joy and empower you. I don't mean to make you angry or upset, but we need to get a wider audience listening and talking about disability. Only when this happens, I believe disability won't be feared as it is today. Hello, my name's Lisa Martin and I'd like to introduce Lucy. And Lucy is the parent of two girls called Emma, 24, Polly, 21. But there's a lot more to your story, isn't there, Lucy, as well as that?
There is indeed.
Yeah. Do you want to share with us your story?
So Emma is 24 and she has global learning delays and presents as a child of about 5 or 6. Well, her cognitive level is that. She's been through education completely and through college, and currently is living at home with a support package from the Borough Council to enable her to live a full life with social activities and work placements, and actually does very well and gives back a huge amount to the community by making cups of tea at the autistic support group on a Monday. Tuesday she has a paid job in a coffee shop. Wednesday she does conservation. Thursday she works in a charity shop, and Friday she goes gardening. So she also picks various different social activities she wants to do, but she lives at home, and between me and some support workers we manage all of her personal care, her money and her well-being. Then there's Polly, who is 21, and she has a diagnosis of autism with a severe anxiety disorder and presents with very challenging behaviour. Polly is in supported living and lives about a 25-minute drive from our home, and went into supported living following a massive breakdown and having been sectioned under Section 3 of the Mental Health Act for about 8 months, which was all pretty horrific. As I said, she's 21, but again, her cognitive level is about the age of 5 or 6. She struggles to manage her personal care and is a bit OCD, particularly around toileting, which obviously is pretty antisocial. But she's bright and funny, and nobody would forget meeting her. So she has a lot going for her, but because of her unpredictable and antisocial behaviour, means she's also got a lot not going for her.
Yeah. So when you said she got sectioned, that was a really challenging time for you, wasn't it? Tell me a bit more about that, because Polly can't cope sometimes with her anxiety, and she quite often becomes violent, doesn't she?
Yeah, that's right. Polly was supported in a residential school placement and came home every other weekend and then for school holidays, and by and large we managed her very well. There was a decision that was made that she would then go to college away from home, at which point she there had a breakdown and ran away, and the psychiatrist there decided to put her onto a drug called aripiprazole.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that was the name of the drug. And that sent her anxieties through the roof.
Oh.
And then she had a massive violent outburst. She was basically sent home from college for us to manage with no care plan. And apparently with this drug, because it's very, it's quite a severe drug to be giving a 20-year-old, she should have been given a support package so that basically if she had a massive meltdown and became extremely violent, that you would just take this support plan and the young person to hospital and they would know what they were dealing with. But we didn't have any of that. And so basically it was a dear friend's funeral, and my father said that he would have her in Ipswich for a couple of days so that we could attend the funeral. And I sent her off in good faith that everything would be all right, and it wasn't. And basically she completely had a massive breakdown with them, was extremely violent and could not get out of that cycle of being violent. So I went to get her, and I couldn't actually get her home in the car. And so we ended up being admitted to hospital. From there, she was then sectioned, which is why we were in Ipswich rather than being in our hometown of Reading.
Okay, wow.
And she was then there for 6 weeks because I had to leave her there and come back to look after the rest of the family.
Yeah.
And then they transferred her from Ipswich down to Reading, where she was for 6.5 months.
Oh, wow. That must have been horrendous for you, Lucy.
It was awful because you always think that you can manage your own child, and actually I couldn't manage her, and we needed to get her well, but it has had a profound effect on her, and she's now still 18 months later on quite strong antipsychotic drugs and a regular dose of diazepam, and then she has diazepam as a PRN, so if she's getting stressed we can give her more, and a huge dose of Prozac, and her behaviour is still unpredictable.
Wow.
So she's not, I would not consider her to be a well adult, but the consideration was that she's one of 5 children who live in the household, and we had to at that point consider what was best for the rest of the family.
Yeah.
And having Polly living away from home actually benefited everybody.
Yeah.
And kept the well-being of the household at the right level.
Yeah, of course, that's completely understandable.
Yeah, but it was hard.
Yeah.
And as a mum, basically you want to take them back home and make them better. And actually I can't. I can't make her better. I can give her strategies, but actually she's now in effect in the care of the borough council.
So she's in supported living.
She's
now?
in supported living, that's right. And she is supported by the borough council and the National Health Service. They share the cost of her being in the community.
But you had to fight for that as well, didn't you?
We did have to fight for. I basically had to say I wasn't prepared to have her home, and I think in some respects having had her sectioned was much easier for me to do that. Had she been, had I brought her home and said I will try and manage her at home and you can find her a space, they won't do it.
Yeah.
But because she was in hospital and I refused to have her back home again, knowing that was the only way that she was going to get a placement.
It must have broke your heart.
It did. It breaks my heart to this day. It breaks my heart that she doesn't live with us, and that I had to make that choice.
Yeah, but you're doing.
But I had to make that choice for the benefit of the other children that live in our household.
Yeah, completely understandable.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the supported living as well, because you're struggling with that as well at the moment, aren't you?
The supported living is very expensive for the Borough Council and the National Health Service. And the support workers, by and large, are very good. However, the senior management of the support company have taken a decision because of Polly's violent outbursts, which they believe are towards female members of staff, has resulted in a lot of issues now. So they have said that because they believe that Polly allegedly attacks female staff, they've withdrawn all female support, which means there is nobody to help Polly now in the shower, washing her hair, shaving under her arms, and applying medicated creams to the back of her legs. So as of 4 days ago, when I took her to the GP for a meds review and addressed the issue with her legs, which were actually raw and infected, there was nobody helping Polly to apply her creams, which meant that they have actually got into a bit of a mess, which is uncomfortable for her. And basically, in my opinion, neglect.
Yes, I agree. You show me the picture of Polly's legs.
They're horrible. They make your skin go all on edge.
And it was awful. It almost made me cry.
Yeah. It's horrible. That is the senior management of the care company, and not the people that work with her on a daily basis, who are lovely.
Yeah.
Really lovely. They're not paid enough money to do the job that they're doing.
No. It's not a valued job.
It's not a valued job, and yet what they are doing, they are looking after my child, effectively.
Of course.
Because I'm not in a position to do that.
Yeah.
And they should be paid a lot more money. And a lot more value should be put on a care worker.
Massively.
And I'm going to mention the whole Brexit thing, is that the people that are looking after Polly come from Europe.
Yeah.
Because they are prepared to do a job that is hard and unpredictable for a small amount of money, whereas people who live in England are not.
Yeah, that's a really good
and
point.
Actually, there are two workers who are unbelievably amazing, and they come from Romania and Hungary, and they look after her brilliantly.
Yeah.
And I expect on a very small wage. And bearing in mind I employ people to look after Emma and to support her, I bet they're probably paid half what I pay Emma.
Yeah, and Emma, even though she has got needs, are not half as high as Polly at the moment.
Emma is not challenging physically.
Yeah.
Although both of them need personal care in the toilet.
For sure.
To put it at the bottom line, they still need their bums wiping.
Yeah, and that's hard for you as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 Oh. And you have got other children as well, haven't you? Because you've just married a lovely man called John.
I've married John, and John has 2 children. Christopher is just 21 and has Asperger's, and he lives full-time with us. He's a very successful autistic young man because he has a full-time job, he drives a car, he's earning money, he lives at home. He's probably what would be classed as typically Asperger's, not interested in socialising with anybody, interested in being in his room on his device. I'm sure a lot of that is typically at 21, but he doesn't have any friends. He has the potential to live independently, which is what in the mid-term we hope for him, to be able to live away from us, with us keeping an eye on him. But there's no reason why he shouldn't live independently of us and financially supporting himself.
But he is still at home at the moment, isn't he?
But at the moment he's still at home.
Yeah.
In addition to Christopher, we have Rachel, who is 18 and she has Down syndrome. And she is educated at the most amazing provision in Bournemouth. And so we have her 50% of the time, although we are her registered address because it's our borough council that pays for her education. And we are hoping that she will be there till she's about 22, because they do a college there as well, and we've just applied for her to continue with her education there. And they are phenomenal with her. Absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, that's good. That's a good story.
They really are. And both sides of Rachel's family believe that they are doing an amazing job with her. So in that respect, that's great.
But then what happens when she's 22? That must be a worry.
When she's 22, it is a worry, because the plan will be that she goes into supported living. Yeah. Yeah. So it then depends, because Rachel's mum lives in Devon. We are in Berkshire. So Rachel is supported by Woking Borough Council. And ideally we would hope that Woking Borough Council, because they know her and all the support is in place for her within Woking, is that it will be up with her. But that would still mean that it will be John and me that manage her package. Yeah. And bearing in mind we have Emma, Polly, Christopher and Rachel's package to manage. It's quite a lot on one family.
It is, yeah.
Not to mention the 15-year-old mainstream bright son that I have.
Yeah, William's amazing.
He is delightful, has huge potential. He has gifts beyond that which you could choose for somebody. And yeah, he's an amazing young man. I'm immensely proud of him.
Yeah.
But he is the person that he is because of the disability that he lives with,
Yeah.
actually.
You told me a story earlier that he was talking to a friend of his who has quite high needs.
Yeah, that's right.
And he's just very kind and treats everybody the same, and lots of
he does.
compassion and
His
empathy.
friend Anthony has autism, and we have always holidayed together for the last few years, and it was lovely. We all went to the pub together just for dinner, and William, made sure Anthony knew where the loos were. And on the way back, they were talking about this game. I have absolutely no idea, do not understand it at all. But they were chatting like best buddies. And there was no... William was treating him in the same way that he would treat his friends from his mainstream school. They were absolutely talking to each other like pals. And what is so cool is that Anthony would consider William to be his friend, and William considers Anthony to be his friend, and William thinks he's really cool. And I love the fact that I have a son who is so accommodating and so accepting of any disability. There probably aren't many young men around like him.
It's a breath of fresh air, isn't it?
It is a breath of fresh air, and I am very proud of him.
Yeah. And Anthony's mum must have been really pleased, and it must have pulled at her heartstrings to see somebody communicating with her child in a really positive way as well.
I think that's absolutely right. I think, yeah.
So the thing with William as well, because he is the neurotypical one, you've got really high expectations of him as well, haven't you?
Yes, I do. I can remember going to parents' evening. William is reasonably able, and parents' evening has always been a joy to go to. When you have children who are, through their disabilities, unable to achieve at a high level academically, when you have one that comes along and finds learning, I'm not saying he finds it easy, but is reasonably able, you go to a parents' evening, and I was with the teacher and talking about science, and she said to him, William, I can remember seeing your face when you realised something in this chemistry lesson, and your face just lit up. And I said to her, I want to say to William, and I don't want to put pressure on him, but don't settle for a B when you can achieve an A. And she just said to me, we are way beyond an A with William in this subject.
Yeah.
And you just think, I do expect a lot from him, and I don't want him to settle for a B if he can achieve an A. I want him to work hard to be the best that he can be, that will open doors for him to have the life that he is able to have and deserves to have.
Yeah, that's completely understandable. And going back to Polly as well, because part of the support care, you were saying they don't shave under her arms, and then not even put the cream on her legs, which is neglect, I believe. But she's a real character, and she loves her makeup, and she likes fashion, and she's 21, isn't she? And no one's doing that for her either.
Nobody is giving her pride in her. Yeah. So those things like basically putting earrings in and putting makeup on, she can't do for herself. Yeah. So for the last 6 weeks since they decided to withdraw female support has not happened.
So that's her identity. So that's going to make her not have any self-esteem and not feel like herself.
And I think that quite a lot of autistic people probably have got a low self-esteem anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
She's not stupid. Okay, cognitively, her spelling's not great and her maths is absolutely shot. But she minds how she looks. She cares desperately about other people. And with an autistic diagnosis, the idea is that an autistic person cannot socialise at all. And yet if you met Polly, she's off the scale when it comes to being social. And she minds about things like that. Yeah. And she really does. And I think that's what's made me very sad, is that she's come and her hair looks a bit of a mess. And she has the most fabulous hair, but she can't manage it because of the curls by herself. Yeah. And that was withdrawn in a very aggressive manner.
Oh,
It will come back. I know it will come back and it will all get sorted out. But it's a fight. And it's a fight for me as a parent.
Yeah.
And it's a fight for John as a step-parent. And I think what people who don't have a child with an additional need don't get is the fact before 8:30 most mornings, we have dealt with more than most people have to deal with in a week.
Yeah.
And whether it's wiping the backside of a 24-year-old or whether you are tearing your hair out because your child has been up since 4 o'clock in the morning running around the house and you then have to get them to school and then go and do a day's work, that sort of thing is not considered.
No.
And so our role as parents of children with additional need is far beyond. There's nothing special about us because we're doing what any mother would do. We are not special, we are not gifted, we are just being mums.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you've been struggling with the fact of maybe wanting to take her out of supported living to finding a new place and stuff. But then that's not great either because she would be struggling with transition, change of routine. So we're always stuck between a rock and a hard place, aren't we?
We are, and if you decide that you're challenging the support that they're given in the community, certainly in Polly's situation, you're challenging the support, and if you decide to move it, then there's a whole support staff that would change for Polly, but you're also changing her housing.
Yeah.
So it's everything, and it's a fine line as to whether you are prepared to do that and risk back into hospital.
Oh.
Because it could tip her over the edge.
Yeah, of course it could.
So it's a fine line. And that's no different for me. It's the same if somebody is not happy with the school provision that they've got for their 8-year-old. Do they move that child?
Yeah.
And challenge what's going on?
Yeah.
It's a very fine line.
And this is making you anxious as well, obviously.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing after another. And you've got a very challenging life through circumstance as well. And Polly feeds off that. She feels it, doesn't she?
Yes, she does. Polly's very guided by how I am. And if I am fine and well and upbeat, Polly will be fine and well and upbeat. If I'm down and concerned, she will know and she will feed off that. So example of that is that recently with the female support being withdrawn for Polly knew that I wasn't happy about it. So she emailed the managing director of the support company, because that is how Polly operates, is that I'm going to tell people that I'm not very happy, sending an email basically saying, I'm not happy that there are no girls helping me with support care. And a couple of other sentences, Mummy is not happy either.
Yeah.
And I got an email back saying, with the email attached, saying, can I take it that you're making an official complaint? So I pinged it back and said, I think you'll find it's Polly that's making the official complaint.
Yeah.
Actually.
Of course.
So she will know that I'm not happy about that.
Yeah.
In a similar way, Polly had the most fabulous social worker who then left to move abroad, and had a new social worker came in, very worried. Don't know what she's going to be like. What's the new social worker? Do like her? What's going to happen? I'd never met this woman and I'd never spoken to her, but I phoned Polly and I said, I've been liaising with your new social worker and I think she's really great. I think you're going to really like her. I really like her. And Polly's reaction was, it's going to be okay. Because Mum likes her, so I like her. But that puts pressure on you.
Yeah.
It puts pressure on you as a mum.
Yeah. And
To mind, that's all we are.
being. You have good days and bad days. And when you're feeling good, you've got this.
Yeah.
But, you are great, but you can't be brilliant all of the
No,
time.
exactly.
And you're just human and you're going to have your bad days
And
as
Polly
well.
would demand every minute
Yeah.
of every single day of my attention.
Oh.
And sharing that for Polly is very hard.
And that must affect Emma as well, doesn't
Well,
it?
it does. But actually, Polly, having not lived at home for a year, Emma is blossoming.
Oh, really?
And so she will communicate and she will talk more than she did before. She is more relaxed. She is very much in Polly's shadow.
Yeah. Oh, bless
And you don't realise that until Polly's not in the household anymore.
Well, the whole dynamics change.
Absolutely. But the fundamental effect of her being in hospital on the whole family was awful.
Yeah.
So William at school for 6 weeks when she was in Ipswich and he hadn't seen her was terrible. He developed a gastric issue that meant that occasionally he was sick and that he couldn't eat anything, and he was very worried. And actually, as soon as he actually saw Polly, when Polly was transferred locally and he went to see her, everything was okay.
Oh, bless
So
him.
having a disabled child does have a fundamental effect on the rest of the family in both good ways and bad ways. We celebrate everything that is amazing, but if something is not quite as you would hope, the whole household mourns or is ill or whatever, struggles with that.
Yeah. And on top of all of this, you actually work with challenging children because you're a teaching assistant.
I'm a teaching assistant. At the moment, I have a child who has challenging behaviour.
How do you do this, Lucy?
Well, do you know what? I'm not very sure, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Because you're working all day with a challenging child, then you come home and then it starts again and it's all challenging.
Yeah.
You know, every way you look at it.
And it's one thing being hit by your own child.
Yeah.
It's a totally different ballgame being hit by somebody else.
Yeah.
By somebody else's child.
Do you think you'll continue working as a TA? If you could get out of it and do a different job?
Yes, I would.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah. Because it's just too tough, isn't it? You know, you're doing so much and you're such a wonderful human being, because you're a big churchgoer as well, don't you? And tell me a little bit about what you've created there at the church for adults with
well,
SEN.
the church I attend is a regular Anglican church, but since I had Emma and Polly, we've attended the same church, so we've been there years. They've got a big heart for anybody who walks in through their door. So Emma now is an elected size person. So she's elected by the PCC every year to be a size person. And that might not sound very much to people, but actually she dishes out the books. On her rotated Sunday, she takes the collection, she checks everything's okay. People come in late, she's out giving out the books. And she's supported by an amazing few people who look out for her, love and adore her, and give her the confidence to carry out that role. But when Polly was little, I was involved in leading services and leading worship. And Polly was a nightmare because she would literally run up and down the aisle, banging and clanking around and shouting and screaming. They put on Polly Patrol. So people were rotated each week, not only to be size person, but to make the coffee and that sort of thing. And then there was Polly Patrol. And people took it in turns to look after her, which enabled me to worship and be involved in leadership, but made church the right place for Polly. And I am privileged to be part of that same church that continues to be like that for people that choose to come and worship with us. We're part of the Diocese of Oxford, and Oxford Diocese are promoting something called Ability Sunday, which will be at some point during September and October in a lot of churches in the diocese. And we're having ours in October, and the ability lead for Oxford is going to be coming and leading a service with me, encouraging us to be open-minded, accommodating, and give value and roles to people who have got some form of disability, whether they're wheelchair users, whether they've got a learning disability, whether they're autistic, that we really consider how we worship in order to be completely inclusive rather than exclusive. The church can be very exclusive, but I'm very privileged that our church isn't like that.
That's amazing. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Because our children are part of the community, and we want them to be seen and heard and valued.
Yeah.
And And it's building their self-esteem by giving them jobs. And, you know, and like you said, it might be a small job to someone neurotypical, but it's really huge for them, isn't it?
It is, and Emma's on the rota, and she checks every Sunday if she's on the rota. And quite a lot of Sundays when she's not on the rota, she's still allowed to be on the rota. But I believe that God accepts everybody, no matter what their creed or their colour is, or what their ability or their disability is. And so to be promoting that sits very comfortably with me.
Yeah, well done, that's brilliant. And then there's more that you do as well. I mean, you're just unstoppable, you're amazing. Because tell me about the regatta that you founded.
So Regatta for the Disabled is a day's event that happens in Henley once a year, and it was born out of attending the Royal Regatta with a colleague, and both of us looked out on the water and all the people there drinking Pimm's, and we said our children are never going to be able to access anything like this because they have disabilities. And so we decided to do something about it, and we put together a regatta whereby anyone with a disability can be involved in enjoying the River Thames, which we're very close to, and either paddle on the river or take a river trip if they're a wheelchair user. And there are land activities, so we have a climbing wall that's wheelchair accessible. You can go up a climbing wall in a wheelchair. There's pets, there's music, and it's a day's event, very well supported by the local community, to enable disabled people and particularly their families to have an inclusive day out.
That's fantastic. Sounds great.
It is.
Go to the next one.
It's great, and a lot of our friends go, which is fabulous. And Emma is captain of a team.
Is she?
Yep.
Yes, Emma.
And
she loves
yes,
that.
she does. So there are usually a couple of teams that have got people with disabilities in them, but it is about having a fun day on the river that they otherwise wouldn't have. It's cheap to come, and everything that when you get in there is free. So it's £5 to get in, but everything there is free when you go in there. So it is our 10th event this year, so it is fabulous. So we even leave our annual holiday early in order to get back to Henley in time to help run it. And this year I'm chair, so I shall be swanning around, chatting to people and having a blast.
Fantastic. Oh, it's fantastic. You're doing such a great job. What is there anything that you do for you? Things that help you feel good in your challenging world?
So my faith is a massive part of my life, and John enables me to be an active member of my church community. And I have just been licensed to preach.
Oh, well done.
Which
Congratulations.
thank you, which I've only done a couple of sermons, but you know, they were okay. They were well received. And John and I are very fortunate that we do take the odd weekend or long weekend away, and we have a very, very good group of very close friends who support us, and an amazing family. So those sorts of things are what feeds me sort of spiritually, emotionally and mentally.
Yeah.
And
you
do the
sing
job
as well, don't you?
I do. I'm in a choral society, so I do sing every week, which is great because actually when you're singing, you can't be, and you're concentrating on the music, you can't actually be doing thinking about anything else. So it is 2 hours of complete respite.
Yeah. And you've got a great voice as well, I've heard.
Well, I think that's generous, actually. But
you have, actually. I think you really have.
Thank you.
And you also come to Freedom Family Holidays, don't you? And how long have you been coming here?
This is our 12th time we've been here.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
We rocked up here when William was just 4, and he's now 15.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
And you've met some amazing families here, and you've all really connected and kept in touch. And
We have. It is a family.
it is, yeah.
It that is the only word to describe it. And Dee and Jane, who set it up, are gifts to all of us because they have allowed us to have a holiday where you wouldn't usually be able to have. They've allowed everybody at whatever level they are and their families to have a holiday.
Yeah.
Which anybody who has a child with a disability knows that's very difficult to have.
It is. Yeah. We've tried all sorts of holidays, and I'm sure
Yeah.
you have.
We
as
have,
well.
absolutely. We've done the whole Florida malarkey,
Yeah.
and absolutely never again. This is where my children are at their happiest.
Yeah.
I did say to William this year, of course, William, we will only be going to East Dean for the time that you're happy to come.
Yeah.
And at 15, having been here since he was 4, said to me, Mummy, why would I ever want to go anywhere else for my holiday?
Oh.
Which actually sums up that actually they cater for everybody here.
Yeah.
And as your child is having a meltdown and you are trying to restrain them from lashing out and being ridiculous, you have people helping you.
Yeah.
You have people handing you a glass of wine.
Yeah.
And you have people saying, I don't want to hear that you're sorry about this.
Yeah.
And so there is total exception, and it is inclusive at a level that I have not experienced anywhere else.
Yeah.
And bearing in mind my eldest is 24, I think that's saying something about the whole place.
Yeah. And Polly's coming tomorrow, isn't she?
She's coming tomorrow. Yes, we've had a few days without her, and she wasn't well enough to come last year, but she's coming tomorrow with a support worker. And Polly said last week she is at her happiest when she is in the Isle of Wight, and that breaks my heart.
Oh, I can't wait to meet her, Lucy.
You will be blown away with her.
Yeah. Oh, bless.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about? Because there's probably other things that you're doing as well, because you do so much.
No, I don't think so. I think that, as I said before, anybody who has a child with a disability is doing the job that they need to be doing. By and large, there's nothing special about us. We are being the mum.
I disagree. I think you are a very special human being.
I don't think that. I think that being a mum is the best job that you can possibly have.
Yeah.
And it's a privilege, and it's hard. But anybody that's doing the job well would say it's a hard job. And that's whether you have a mainstream child or a child that has a disability. Not everybody has the privilege to be a mum, and not everyone has the privilege to be a parent. And my children are privileged in a way to have a mum who loves and adores them, and a stepfather who is unbelievably generous. And so in that respect, they are very lucky. But I am privileged to be the parent of my 3 children. And that's something that I will never underestimate what that privilege is. It's my privilege that, yes, they've got me as their mum, but it's my privilege to have them as my children.
Oh, that's so lovely. I think we're going to end on that, because that's just beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to join me today. To find out more about what I do, visit www.specialworldtraining.com and follow us on our Facebook page, Special World Training, Instagram and LinkedIn. I believe knowledge is power and strength is in numbers. And if more people get involved in our special world, we can all make our world a better place. Join me next week for more amazing stories from the good, the bad and the ugly.